are now live. Yes,
Hi.
we are. Okay. Hey, everyone. Hi, guys. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Hi, Eileen.
Hi, guys. Okay, so thank you, everyone, for joining the session on Learning from LATAM's Leading Brands, where we'll be discussing how top name brands shifted from brick and mortar to the digital space. And we're going to see also what's in store. They're going to tell us a little bit what's going on beyond. My name is Eileen Molina, and I'm Director of Enterprise Client Success at Payoneer. Now, before we get to our esteemed guest, we actually just want to do a quick poll since we are talking about LATAM and e-commerce. And we kind of want to gauge the room a little bit to see what's the audience familiarity with e-commerce and LATAM. So I'm going to pull up a poll right now. You're going to see it on your right-hand side. And if you guys can just tell us a little bit about where you guys stand on your knowledge there. So if you lock in your responses while I introduce our panelists today. So today we have Juan Sebastián González, Sales Manager for Grupo Éxito. Grupo is the main online and offline retailer in Colombia. And if you haven't heard of Grupo before, it's dubbed the Walmart of Colombia. Also with us is Natalie Harkins, Brand Acquisition Manager in the Americas for LINIO International. LINIO is one of the leading marketplaces in Latin America, and they connect sellers to consumers in Mexico, Chile, Peru, and Colombia. LINIO was actually acquired by parent company Falabella Group to purposely strengthen their e-commerce business within LATAM, and it's positioned LINIO pretty nicely in terms of cross-border business. So let's take a quick look at our polls. And if you guys have ability to like check those out on your end too. So I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulty.
I see the poll at least.
You see it? Okay. Do you see the responses at the end?
Let's see.
No,
not yet.
just the questions.
No. Okay. All right. Some technical difficulties. So we could just move on from there. We could just jump into the questions if you guys don't mind.
No problem. I think it worked there.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. So we know that there has been a lot of technological penetration in LATAM, actually 65% year-over-year growth since 2003. Clearly, this is affecting your spaces. Can you guys tell us a little bit more about what prompted Grupo Éxito and LINIO to go from brick and mortar, this offline to online? Natalie, if you can kick it off.
Of course. So as you mentioned at the beginning, LINIO is part of the Grupo Falabella, which is one of the most important holdings in Latin America. We have retail stores, we have banks, we have home improvement stores. We actually have Mall Plaza retail estate. There's travel agencies, and about 2 years ago, Grupo Falabella acquired LINIO as their main marketplace business. So Falabella has a vast knowledge in e-commerce with almost 15 years of experience, but understood 2 years ago that purchasing LINIO as part of their companies meant that we would be one step ahead in sales. So our marketplace is a business model that will provide a larger assortment for clients, considering that retail obviously has certain restrictions that limit the assortment, such as buying budgets, for example. So this unprecedented growth of online channels has obviously helped offset the restrictions imposed as a result of the health emergency in different countries. And this is obviously showed that our move 2 years ago was the right move in the right direction. So that's how we as Grupo Falabella with LINIO have been managing that scenario.
Eileen, I think there's something going on with your. There you go. Yeah, right. There you go.
I can you for a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think Grupo's experience has been a little bit similar to what Falabella Group has been going on, expanding our businesses and just trying to attack the economy from different perspectives. But I think the biggest part about moving from an offline business to an online business was Grupo's leadership understanding the importance that clients have in any business decision we make. And that's what all of our strategy is focusing right now on, having an omni-channel, omni-client experience, being able to reach our clients from different points and perspectives, reaching them from our offline stores, from our online channels or websites or apps. So I don't think it's just like moving from the offline and the brick and mortar business, but actually joining in and combining both models into one ecosystem where you can reach clients from either one of them. And I think that's what Grupo's main differences in the market. They've understand this. We've built up on this, and now now with COVID and what's happening right now, we were kind of ready to attack all of the things that were going on throughout this year, and we were prepared to actually bring our sales from the offline channel to the online channel.
Yeah, and that definitely makes sense. And so, Juan, it sounds like from your end, from Grupo, you guys started doing it a lot of it organically, whereas Linio Falabella, Linio was acquired, and you're both kind of landing in the same spaces, really capturing kind of on what's happening with COVID. You guys were kind of prepared, and of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge COVID's part in the expansion of LATAM's tech penetration, especially in the last few months. So we see, for example, Brazil alone, the jump from 5.8% to 12.6% in e-commerce share of retail. And you've just shared your stories, like you guys were already planning before COVID. What are some trends that you guys are seeing now?
Okay, so I think, yeah, do you want to go first, Natalie? It's okay.
That's fine, you can continue.
Now, I think what we're seeing in the market right now, it's how companies are evolving, not just into what we're selling on, but just on how we're selling it. And I was just telling you a few days back about how Éxito kind of started changing the way we give the products to our clients, allowing them to buy online, to pick it up in the stores without having to leave their cars or whatnot. Being able to understand what clients were looking for, preparing for that, understanding that we had a big jump in the inventory we needed for products, reaching out for sellers to get that, and basically providing a service for our clients because they needed us. And a few days back, our president was actually talking about this, on how our stores were kind of the safest place people could be while they were at home because they had to go grocery shopping, and how important it was for us to give them the opportunity of staying safe, buying from home, and reaching out to them that way. And I think that's what being ready was for, to service our clients, putting them first, and allowing them to access our big portfolio from our offline and online stores.
Great.
So I'd have to add on to that, actually. And in terms of a comparison maybe with what Grupo Éxito is doing and what Juan just mentioned, Linio is obviously coming from an e-commerce business. So part of our service at the end isn't, well, it's obviously delivering the product, but isn't maybe developing or constructing on different ways to deliver the product, but more in terms of how we deliver the assortment towards our clients. So one of the interesting insights that has been related to COVID in terms of categories I'd have to speak about is that apart from the historically increase in categories known such as electronics, including everything that has to do with maybe computers, cell phones, connectivity in general, now that we are super stuck at home and need to connect. Those have obviously experienced the growth, and those are historically categories that have experienced growth or that thrive within e-commerce businesses. But then we have this whole other world of different categories that weren't so strengthened within marketplaces, because basically those are things that you would probably go to a store and purchase, such as maybe a cream or a perfume that you'd want to try on. And now that we can't leave our houses or get a facial at a spa, these type of categories or products have become more interesting for consumers to have at the point of their fingertips and to be able to purchase them. And this is obviously directly linked to our new reality, which has demanded us to be at home. So as I was mentioning, you saw from that, I think it's amazing how the outlet craze comes into full effect when Latins, and we also see Brazilians and Asians and Latins at these outlets, just flocking them to get this type of product that maybe isn't so accessible at our local markets from a retail store. Some, I have to say, that obviously have the brands present, but maybe their assortment or their stock isn't so developed. So obviously there's a large opportunity to, you know, complement those types of assortments. And then maybe just, you know, what you may wonder, okay, so we're talking about these luxury fashion brands or accessible luxury fashion brands. We're talking about tech items. We're talking about health and beauty. We're talking about sports brands, just to mention some that you can find at these outlets. And then you come to think about, how do these consumers purchase these products? You know, some of them we're talking about higher prices. And the interesting thing about Latin America is that apart from this admiration that we have for these super relevant name brands, linked to obviously what I said, status, there's also a very easy way to access these brands with credit. So most of the consumers who don't have the easy pay up access to pay for that product can recur to paying in installments, which means that you can pay over time. So that's pretty interesting. I mean, you can see everything from everywhere from buying your groceries in installments to, you know, luxury items in installments. And obviously, Latin America is a country that is characterized mainly by a large middle class who obviously wants to come out of that middle class and usually uses possessions or travels to kind of differentiate themselves from that. So I feel that there is a very big opportunity for companies or brands or sellers or resellers to come into the Latin American continent and kind of take advantage of that trend that is actually super relevant. And then you don't necessarily have to have maybe the name brands, but you can carry an assortment that isn't so available in Latin America. Obviously, as part of the commercial assistance that we provide within our marketplaces and businesses as Grupo Éxito and LINIO, we obviously help you through that process to understand what are these trends and what are these interesting products based on what your catalog is. So I think those are the main differences or main interesting insights that I could probably point out about sharing this dual nationality and kind of seeing what happens in the United States or in Canada or in North America or in Asia or in Europe, and how Latin America values that.
Yeah, I think building up on what Natalie was saying, and just going back to when she was talking about how we pay on installments. I think that's a good way of showing with an example on how consumption behaves a little bit here in Colombia and in Latin America and whatnot. And it's that we value price and discounts above all of the other possible options you would be looking into when buying a product. I don't know. And we had this conversation a few weeks and I think a few months back when we were saying it's that the US people value getting their products the next day, 24-hour deliveries. And even though we do value that as well, and that's why companies like Éxito, LINIO, Falabella are always working hard on improving the logistics process, we've understood that discount and competitive prices are the main key and the main decision variable our clients are looking for. And while working with international sellers, we've realized that for specific brands, like premium brands, like Natalie was saying, like getting them directly from the US, it's cheaper than trying to find them over here. Like the margins companies try to take out of those brands here are pretty high. So as a seller, if I work with these brands, I know I can have a good margin and get a good market share because I'll have the most competitive prices they have in the market. Same thing goes for Chinese products. If there are any Chinese looking at this panel, I think that's very valuable for them to understand because they're very good at pricing and competitive prices. And I think that's one of the key points and one of the key things that are going to make them differentiate from local sellers. And just to finish up on that, these things where Natalie and me are telling you guys, it's the main reason why it's important to choose to believe in a local marketplace that understands clients, that understands the market and what differentiates a good offer from a bad one. And I think that's what we're bringing into the table while working with international sellers.
And guys, if we could go like a little bit off script, because I'm really interested in what you guys just said about the pricing, right? So you're saying like that's pretty important. Adelie, your point about like the installments, like I don't think that's common knowledge, right? Like I don't think people understand that the idea is like sometimes like, okay, disposable income in LATAM isn't as high. How are you able to afford this Apple phone? I know when I go, I'm like, how does everyone have an Apple phone? You know, how are you affording this? And so on the other side, it's the pricing aspect you just mentioned. So if you guys can speak maybe just a little bit, I know a little bit of a different question, but about how things generally in Latin America are pretty expensive. I don't think people understand that, you know, like when you're in Latin America, you're already paying like a high premium on the product itself. So if you're bringing in another product, like it's still going to be competitive. And maybe if you guys can touch on that a bit.
You want to go
Yeah,
for it?
go ahead, Natalie. Go ahead.
I was inviting you to speak about it, but yeah, I'll go for it. So, kind of touching base on what I had mentioned before, we have, and obviously I know that this is going off script, we've had certain situations, and I'm sure that Juan has also gone through these, that sometimes, we already have the brand present, and then there's problems with distributors and stuff like that. I feel that, as Juan said, the access to the product here is sometimes hard, and sometimes we search for it on other means and don't realize that we can bring, as sellers, these products to our consumers. Obviously, the pricing is super relevant, as we don't want to be out of the competitive chart, and we want to have competitive prices. And also, clients will be comparing these prices to your local markets. But I think it's important that we take into account that while the prices could be a little higher, we're going to be having an assortment that you don't have an immediate access to. I mean, when we're talking about marketplaces, we're talking about usually express shipping, or shipping that will arrive within 5 to 7 days at the longest, with all of this COVID madness going on. But it's something that consumers will probably, value, because they can bring it from abroad. They're going to pay a little bit more in order to get this product. Now, that doesn't mean that obviously we're going to be, overcharging the product or anything, because we also want to get volume within it. I mean, there's an aspect to volume and to sales there. And I think that if you are able to offer this amazing catalog at a sweet price point, with a decent amount of time to get to the country, people are willing to pay for that. And as I mentioned, like for example, Grupo Falabella has a bank associated to them, or to us, and we have a credit card called CMR. So most of the companies try to have all these different promotions linked to the credit cards in order for clients to, purchase the product through means of the credit card at a better credit rate, but obviously permitting the consumers to then have access to these products. I think that would be like my perspective in terms of how to get hold of that product and how it is easy. And just mentioning about the installments, I mean, you can pay, it's very common for you to pay maybe in 3 installments or 6 installments, depending on what the final price of the product is. Now, it's important to know, obviously, as Juan had mentioned, that when bringing products cross-border, you have to consider a lot of these add-ons. Some of them are obviously commissions, and then taxes and duties, and then the logistic cost. So obviously these costs are passed on to our clients, and then they're published on our webpage as part of the price. But I think it's also important that while we are helping you create this price structure, you are also able to understand that you can maintain your margin, you can have an attractive business, and you can have volume related to this, because we will be able to provide the commercial assessment, and also we have different payment methods that will permit for your client to be able to access this product. I don't know if I really answered your question, but
no, you did. In fact, that was even better than I expected. So you answered a lot of it, Juan. I don't know if you want to piggyback on this.
No, I think Natalie covered most of it. I think one of the things she said, it's very important. And well, when you go through Amazon and this kind of stuff, you don't see it, but big companies, like just as Natalie was saying, Falabella has its CRM card. Grupo Éxito has its Tarjeta Éxito as well. And a lot of our commercial activities are piggybacked on those cards, giving better discounts. So always trying to make the prices that our sellers give us a little bit better, just to make it to the soft spot where we're going to sell at a good price, at a good margin. And like Natalie was saying, assuring we're going to have a good volume, because that's what we're always aiming for. Specifically with international sellers, we try to aim for increase the volume they sell really fast, just so we can make it easier on the logistic process we're taking care of, because the more products you bring in, the easier it's going to be for us to manage the logistics.
Definitely, for sure. Okay, so if we can go not necessarily like into logistics, but just overall like strategies of the companies. And Juan, you had kind of commented on this before, that you had said something to the extent of like, in response to COVID, companies really need to be adaptable. They really need to be able to change. So can you share a little bit with us about the strategies Grupo has taken that they've created to change now that digital
Grupo are evolving and getting ready to target these kind of things and to evolve with the economy and what the clients are looking for. So yeah, that's the story.
That's and that's a great story. No, because you guys came out on top, and it's really amazing to see, like, everyone grappled with COVID in the different ways, right? To individuals, to companies. And it's really the ones that were able to adapt to the changing circumstances that really were the ones that came out on top. So I commend you guys for really doing that. But just along those same, go ahead. Yeah, of course.
I want to add on.
Absolutely.
Actually, yeah, as we were speaking about this, Juan inspired me to mention how we were doing it.
Be inspired. Go for it.
So, it's super interesting to obviously listen to Juan speak about, this brick and mortar company who's making big moves and bold moves to move into the e-commerce business. And then obviously I come from a background with the same type of history. Falabella Retail is a company that has over 120 years in the market. And obviously we're super ingrained into how to make the platform work, but from inside. So once you realize that all of this digitalization, and I won't go into the next point, Eileen, I promise, but once you realize all of this digitalization kind of fast forwarding at a turbo speed charge, as you mentioned before, I think that also kind of made our heads at Falabella Group understand how we had to move forward with this. And obviously companies like Grupo Éxito and Grupo Falabella with Linio are super eager to become leaders or continue to maintain their leadership within the markets, especially in Latin America. I mean, these are some of the most beloved brands that we're talking in terms of retail. So I think that one of the things that Falabella did very well is that they recently mentioned or communicated their e-commerce merge. Everything is going to work under one big umbrella that's going to be called falabella.com. And this is working towards unifying all of our e-commerce businesses under one big name, which is falabella.com. And it has been a unique way to consolidate our platform for traffic and for assortment to be possible today at a larger scale for clients to, have an option to be purchasing these things. Obviously, some of these changes like Juan just mentioned are things that you have to, stand up on your 2 feet and move forward within 2 weeks. And then there's other big changes that companies are doing within their strategy, which obviously involves a larger process. These are changes that we'll probably see within 2021. Nonetheless, it's super relevant to point out that as Latin American companies that are leading the markets, we truly understand that this digitalization or that this fast forward that COVID has brought with us means that we have an invitation to, be part of this wave and kind of ride it, so we can provide the best assortment for our clients and the best service, because at the end, that's what we're selling. We're selling a service, we're selling a product, and we want this experience to be the best for our clients. We want it to arrive in time and form. We want it to be, the best experience that you can have, regardless of the fact that you can't go into a store, but you can also have different benefits while you purchase online, which is something that we've always heard about. You pay a little bit less because you're not paying for a warehouse, or you pay a little bit less because there's no one there helping you try out the product, or you're not using a fitting room or anything. So I think it's super interesting how these companies advance with these big money moves to kind of determinedly shout out that we are obviously constructing within this new e-commerce trend. And I think that the trends are obviously going to transform into habits. And I think they already have. I mean, I've been working from home since March 17th. So this is going to be almost my 7th or 8th month. And obviously, they say that 21 days is enough to create a habit. I feel that 7 months have already become my new life. So I think it's interesting how these companies are advancing into these new ways of how to sell, how to offer. The big point of having Falabella under one big umbrella is also so that if you have a product and you can't find it, maybe at our falabella.com or retail store, you can find it obviously at our Linio catalog, or you can find it at our Sodimac catalog, or you can find it at our Totus catalog. So I think that unification is obviously a very unique way to deliver a better experience to our consumers at the end, and obviously help sellers increase and boost their sales, because at the end, the more consumers we have, the more audience we have, the more sales we have for you, or sales opportunities. So
yeah, totally, absolutely, and I love those stories. Thanks, guys, for sharing those anecdotes, and I'm happy you were inspired by Juan, at least on this point. So kind of writing on what you just said, that's so interesting. I want to break up the next question in two parts. So you just said, it takes X amount of days to build a habit, right? And at some point, knock on wood, COVID's going to be gone, right? That's going to be the end of it, we hope. And we know that Latin Americans love to go into the stores. Sometimes you could even say it's something social, something to that extent. And so first part of the question is, I'd like to ask, do you think this trend is actually going to persist after COVID is long gone? Like, will people go back from being like these online shoppers saying, okay, COVID's over, I'm going to go back to the store because that's where I was able to go shopping with my friends? First part. And second part is a little bit more about where the companies are going beyond. That was part of the panel, and what you guys see next. So are these consumers actually converted onto permanent online consumers? And then what's coming up next in terms of like Grupo and Linio, if you guys could share those two.
You want to go for it, Juan, first?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, sure. I'll go. I'll have a go first. So we're going to be talking about the COVID impact and how long is it going to stay for. I think that as of right now, the economy has started to see a kind of correction after the overcorrection we had in March, April, when everyone was sent home and everyone was, how long am I going to be staying home? I need a computer. I need to change my bed. I'm tired of my mattress. So suddenly people needed everything they think they needed, because they didn't know how long they were going to stay home. Like our sports category started growing triple digits because everyone wanted to do sports. Surprisingly, after they being home, they didn't know, Netflix didn't have enough shows for them to watch, so they actually started to exercise.
I bought a mountain bike, so let's start there.
So you see that the first few months we had were an exaggeration to what was going on the economy and in the world as it is. And then 2 months from now, so I'm talking about around August, we started seeing some kind of trend that started showing us that the online behavior it wasn't dropping, but it's starting to correct itself onto a more, I think, easy growth, because it's still growing a lot. Like, we're still seeing growth over triple digits in some categories. Some others are starting to slow down, and I think Natalie can share it with you as well. Something as computers and printers. Like, honestly, in the first 2 months, everyone bought all the computers and printers they're gonna need for like the next year or so. So
yeah.
So you can start seeing that some of the categories that overreacted on the first few months are starting to slow down, but still showing us that they're still growing at a 60-70% rate. So if you compare it to 3 months ago, it said you might be saying, so we're going back to how it was. And then you go a year back and it's like, we're not over there. Like, we're actually increasing, and we're going to stay this level, because I don't know if it's about completely converting people into the online channels. It's actually that we became hybrids. So I had this friend that he says that he has to touch everything he buys before buying it, and suddenly he's going to the store, seeing what he's going to buy, and then going back home and buying it online. And these types of behaviors are very interesting, because people are doing things they never thought they were going to be doing. So I think we're gonna be staying here. And then on the other side on the second question you were asking, and I think it links pretty nicely to what Natalie was saying, is that big companies within the LATAM market understood how important it is to start investing in the online channels, in the omni-channel experience, into an omni-client kind of way of seeing our clients. We don't have two clients anymore. We don't have the client that goes to our stores and the one that buys online. We have one client, and we have to learn how to sell them online and offline. So seeing this and seeing how companies are gonna start investing into developing their online channels, like just talking about Éxito, on how Éxito wants that in the next year or so, 15 to 20% of their all of their textile sales, so that's clothes and shoe comes from the online channels, when right now it's around, like before COVID was around 3-4%. Shows how courageous and how intelligent the companies in LATAM are. They understood that we have to change into what the economy is asking from us. And so I think that's those two things. I think it's not just that COVID changed the way we live, and it's also that companies understood that we had to start seeing the retail business as something different, and seeing a client as a whole and not from different perspectives. And I think that's what's going to keep this going on the long run.
Thanks.
Yeah, I totally agree with Juan. I think that it's amazing how obviously these large companies have jumped into action and have, fast forwarded their plans. I feel that this isn't something strange to us. I just feel that this was super out of the blue, where, we saw COVID from the other side of the world, just thinking like, oh, when's this going to arrive? And then first things first, we have the first case in each one of our countries. And I think that, everyone can relate to that, because everyone was stuck watching the news. And then as days went by, as the weeks went by, as the months went by, and we started realizing, like, I think, as I mentioned, I came back from vacation actually during March, and I came straight back into my house. And then it was March, April, May until I decided that I needed to buy a proper desk to work. So obviously, it took me 2 months to realize that this was in for the long run. And then I think that the companies have done a great job. You're laughing at me. So I feel that it was a great moment, or not. I don't want to repeat the word, but it was great momentum that COVID brought to us, and as an invitation to surf this e-commerce wave, and to realize that this isn't a trend anymore, and it's a habit. And as Juan said very, very precisely, I feel that it's not that we've created a new customer that will only purchase online. It's a customer that's now a hybrid, that now chooses to buy some things maybe at the store and then chooses to buy other things online, or that has habits like Juan's friend, who goes to the store and touches a product, which is something I've personally done as well. We seem to have all done it. When I bought my new bed, I wasn't going to go to the store and bring it in my little tiny car. I was going to probably order it online, but I wanted to try it and everything. And I think that obviously that is something that has been aggressively taken away from us, or very aggressively taken away from us. And now we've had to steal Juan's words. Actually, he said we were offering a 360 solution, where we have the sales team help us, where we have logistic processes that are obviously going to be taken charge of. We will be helping you in terms of returns, of customer service. There's no necessity for you to speak in Spanish, because, as I mentioned, we have multicultural teams who can speak English and who can give you insight as to what is happening within our markets. In terms of marketing, we also have options for you to get your brand to be known if you have a brand that you want to get to know with our Latin consumers. But I think that also when you come into Latin America, you need to have an objective of what you want to do. Do you want to diversify your selling channels? Do you want to create your brand within Latin America? Do you just want to look for volume? I think there's a solution for everyone, obviously, as long as you know what you want to sell and how you want to sell it. And I think that marketplaces like Linio International, I think that companies like Grupo Éxito are the ones that have the knowledge of how to help you boost your sales with all of these different tools within our platform. So I think that if you were, and obviously, just taking into account everything that we've spoken about how our culture works and how these brands are super looked up for. And then there's a necessity for us to strengthen our catalogs in order to offer more of the same products at different prices with different shipping times. And, at the end, it will be the consumer's choice as to which one they want to choose. But we will definitely be here to guide you and increase your sales, hopefully in a short period of time. And obviously help you to expand your business within Latin America, which, by the way, has over 300 million consumers. And I know that maybe if we compare it to a country like the United States or maybe to another little city within China, we can obviously say that the population is way smaller, but also these numbers related to our results and our sales and in our visits respond to the customers that we're working with. So for instance, you mentioned at the beginning that Linio has over 300 million views per month, and that's super interesting because at the end there's a super active environment for your products to be sold at. So if I could put my 2 cents in that would be why we invite you into Latin America.
No, absolutely. That's a great sell for Linio, and I think you added like a lot of explanation as to why the sellers should choose and continue to go to LATAM, especially after today's explanation. I don't know if Juan, you have something you want to add there as for Grupo particularly.
Yeah,